Both of these mics are great options for $100, but which one should you get? Today we'll talk about the differences between the Audio-Technica AT2020 and the AT2040 and what they should be used for. This is how I hear it. Let's start with build quality. Both microphones are solid metal, are heavy, and feel really premium. The AT2040 has a built-in pop filter underneath the screen, which will help with plosives. These are plosive, Peter Piper, pick up, blah, blah, blah. The AT2020 does not have a pop filter, so you'll want to add something there. Even though the 2040 has a built-in filter, I've added my own foam filter on top for good measure. The main difference between these two microphones is in how they reproduce sound. The AT2020 is a condenser microphone, and the AT2040 a dynamic. Technically, they work in similar ways to capture sound, but the way they do it varies slightly. Dynamic microphones, like the AT2040, work similar to how a speaker works, only in reverse. A diaphragm connected to a voice coil moves inside of a magnet to send positive and negative signals to your preamp.
Okay, side note, here's an old DJ trick. You plug your headphones into the microphone input, and as long as the input gain's high enough, you can actually turn those headphones into a microphone.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm speaking into headphones that are acting like a microphone.
So that's how dynamic microphones work. Condenser microphones work similarly, but instead they use two parallel diaphragms that are electrically charged. A difference in current across the two diaphragms is converted into sound waves, which is then sent to your preamp. Because of this, most condenser microphones require power to operate. Your audio interface or preamp might have a 48 volt or phantom power button on it. This sends the necessary power to the mic. Note, this works over an XLR cable. All that to say that the AT2020 won't work without phantom power. The AT2040, on the other hand, will work without power. It will require a little more input gain on your audio interface to produce sound at the same level as the AT2020. Okay, so we know how they work, but how do they sound? To start, both mics do a great job at picking up the human hearable frequency range. I do find that the AT2020 does a better job at picking up the higher end frequencies, and the low end seems to be a little attenuated. The 2040 sounds a little muddier, which means it's a little heavier on the bass and lower mids. This is something that can always be tweaked in post via EQ. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. As for ambient pickup, most condenser mics are going to pick up more of the room. That's sound coming from the sides and the rear. Dynamic mics do a better job at rejecting some of the sounds around you. That's why you'll often see dynamic mics on stage for live events when they're surrounded by other instruments and sound sources. Both mics are great for vocals, but you'll want to treat the space that the 2020 is in a little more than the 2040. Okay, let's jump into a little sound test. First up is the AT2020 condenser microphone, followed by the AT2040 dynamic. Both mics were placed in the same location, and I tried to match the input gain. No processing has been done on these recordings.
This is the sound of the Audio-Technica AT2020 condenser microphone with no pop filter. This is the sound of the Audio-Technica AT2020 with a pop filter. This is the sound of the Audio-Technica AT2040 dynamic microphone with no pop filter. This is the sound of the Audio-Technica AT2040 with a pop filter.
So it's pretty clear that the 2020 is a little bit brighter, whereas the 2040 is a little bit muddier. Again, all of this can be fixed in post with an EQ. So what's the verdict? If you're strictly using the microphone to record vocals for music or other situations where vocal clarity is important, I would recommend the AT2020 or any condenser microphone. You'll definitely want to use a shock mount to reduce vibrations and treat the area around the microphone to reduce ambient noise pickup. For everything else, I recommend the AT2040. I've been testing both of these mics for the past few weeks, and I'm sticking with the AT2040 Dynamic. I think this is a really great all-purpose microphone. I mainly use it for video calls and recording YouTube videos and podcasts. I don't do any vocals for my music yet, but if I did, I would have no problem using the 2040. So there you have it. Whatever microphone you do end up choosing, Make sure you have the right audio interface and good cables, and you're all set. Thanks for watching. If this video didn't totally suck, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and consider subscribing.